Next, we'll make the scarf. It consists of the scarf body and the fox head. For the scarf body, we'll start with the foundation chain. While crocheting, we'll wrap thin wire along it. After that, we'll crochet the fox head. Once done, we'll add some small seed beads for decoration. Finally, attach them to the top of the scarf. Please watch demonstration. First, cut a piece of wire, about 60 centimeters long for later use. Now, let's begin crocheting. Start with the first section of the scarf body. Make the according number of chains. Since this is a small sample, I will do less stitches. Once the chain is complete, begin working double crochets in the fourth chain from the hook. Yarn over. Insert your hook into the top loop of the fourth chain from the hook. Now, take out the prepared thin wire. Place it above the hook. On the left side of the hook, leave a tail of the thin wire, about 5 centimeters longer than the chain length. As you continue crocheting, always place the thin wire above the hook. Warp it into the stitches as you go. Follow the pattern shown in the chart. Work until you reach one stitch before the last chain. When you get that spot, work a 3SC and 1 in the last chain. For this stitch, there is no need to wrap the thin wire in it. Once completed, fold the wire in half. Now, start crocheting the other side. Work into the remaining 2 strands. That's the insertion point for this side. As you crochet, place both the starting tail and the thin wire above the hook. In this way, incorporate them into your stitches. Follow the pattern in the chart to finish this side. After you finish the last stitch, make 1 chain to secure. Leave a tail of about 5 centimeters, then break the yarn. Hide the yarn end along the texture in the wrong side of the fabric. After weaving in the end through several stitches, trim it off. And like that, the first part of the scarf is complete. Set it aside for now. Moving on to the second part. Take out the right color yarn. Wrap the yarn on your left hand. Make the corresponding number of chains. Once the foundation chain is done, start from the 4th chain from the hook, making 3 double crochets in each stitch. Yarn over. Insert the hook. Then, take out the first part you've completed. Make sure the right side is facing you. Place the thin wire above the hook. Weaving in the wire as you go. When finished, there's one chain left. In this chain, work 3 double crochets. Don't forget to warp in the thin wire. After that, make a CH2 picket. First, chain 2. Then, pick up these 2 strands. Make a slip stitch into them. In this way, you've completed a CH2 picket. Now, in the same stitch, work 3 more double crochets. When done, pick up the remaining 2 strands of each chain and make 4 double crochets. Incorporate the starting yarn tail and the thin wire into your stitches. Finish with 1 chain to secure. Leave a 15 cm tail for sewing. Cut the yarn. Tighten. Trim excess tail. Adjust the thin wire. Even out the fabric for a smooth finish. Thread your sewing needle through the reserved yarn tail. Sew the 2 parts of the scarf together. When complete, tie off and weave in the ends on the wrong side. Cut off excess tails. Gently adjust the fabric. Tighten any excess wire. At the wrong side of the fabric. By twisting it. Then trim it off. So, the main body of the scarf is finished. Next, make the fox 4 legs. Take the same color yarn from main body, warp the yarn with your left hand. Insert the hook into the stitch just right of the top here. Pull the yarn through. Work 3 chains. Then, work 1 chain to secure. Cut off the yarn. Tighten. Leave about 2 millimeters of yarn and then cut it off. Hide the starting yarn tail to the wrong side of the fabric. And there, 1 leg completed. Move on to the second leg. Insert the hook into the second stitch from the left. Draw the yarn through. Crochet 3 chains. Fasten off in the same way. Weave in the end. Now, make the third leg. Count 21 stitches to the left. I'm doing this randomly. Insert the hook. Draw the yarn through. Chain 4. And there, the third leg is complete. For the fourth leg, place it symmetrically. Finish crocheting it. Then, cut the yarn. Weave in the end. Next, let's make the fox head. Start with a foundation chain of 4 stitches. Then start in the 4th chain from the hook. Work a DC 3 in 1. That means make 3 double crochets into the first chain. Chain 4. Turn the work counterclockwise. Pick up the first chain's 2 strands. Make a slip stitch. Once done, work single crochets into the double crochets below. The last single crochet will be worked into the 2 strands of this chain. After that, make a CH4 picot. First, chain 4. Then, pick up the 2 strands from here. Make a slip stitch. Finish off with a chain stitch. Leave a tail of about 5 centimeters, then break the yarn. Tighten. We'll consider the right side of the double crochets as the front of the fox head. Weave in the ending tails along the fabric's texture to the wrong side. Do the same for the starting tail. Now, let's crochet the border. Take out yarn in the same color as the second part of the scarf's main body. Warp the yarn on your left hand, with the front of the fox head facing towards you. Pick up 2 strands of the last double crochet. Insert the hook. Draw the yarn through. Make 1 beginning chain. Then, make a single crochet in the same spot. Place the yarn tail above the hook. Next, pick up the next 2 strands. Work a single crochet. Pick up the next 2 strands and make a single crochet. That means make 3 evenly spaced single crochets over this double crochet. When complete, work into the insertion point of this double crochet. Make a slip stitch. Then, chain 1. Now, work another slip stitch in the same space below. After that, pick up the 2 strands from the left side starting chain. Make 3 evenly spaced single crochets. Finish with a chain stitch to secure. Leave a tail of about 5 centimeters, then break the yarn. Weave in the ends to the wrong side of the fabric. Once done, attach small seed beads for decoration. Cut a length of yarn in the same color as the head. Separate one strand from it. Thread it onto an embroidery needle. Then, pass the needle through from the back of the fox ear. Leave a tail of about 5 centimeters without pulling it through. Sew on one white seed bead. Pass the needle back in at an adjacent spot. Tie 2 knots on the wrong side to secure the thread. Then, come out at another nearby position. Thread the seed bead onto the needle. Pass the needle through at an adjacent point. Make 2 securing stitches to ensure it firmly. Like this, you've attached one seed bead. Now, transition the yarn tail to the other ear from the wrong side. Bring the needle out. Thread on a white seed bead. Pass the needle through at an adjacent spot. We also need to secure with 2 knots. The second seed bead is now in place. Tie a knot on the wrong side, and weave in the end. Look! The white seed beads are now decorated. Next, move on to decorate with the other 3 black seed beads. These will be the fox's 2 eyes and mouth. Cut a length of yarn, in the same color as the border. Separate one strand. Thread it onto an embroidery needle. Follow the same method used for the white beads. Attach the top 2 black beads, which are the eyes, and sew them in place. I've already done that here. Now, move on to the bottom, the mouth section. Transition the thread to the pointed shape from the wrong side of the fabric. Come out through the back. Add 1 black seed bead. Then, insert the needle from right. Pass through the bead. Next, enter the needle from left. Like this, the third black seed bead is attached. Tie a knot and weave in the ends on the wrong side. And now, the fox head is complete. Apply glue to the back. Attach it to the top of the scarf. Look! This is how the scarf will look when it's completed. Now, let's make the doll's pants. Start with a chain ring. Crochet upwards in rounds. Firstly, make 2 legs. Then, join them together, and continue crocheting. After that, add decorations to the pants. Now, please watch my demonstration. Begin by casting on. Make the corresponding number of chains. Once done, form the chain to a circle. Be careful, don't twist it. Make a slip stitch into the first chain's top loop. Pull tight. Like this, the casting on is complete. Now, work the first round. Start by making 1 chain as a beginning chain. Then, crochet the stitches in the parentheses 6 times. You'll work into the top loops only of these chains throughout this round. First, work into the insertion point of the slip stitch. That's the top loop of the first chain. Hide the yarn tail by place it above the hook as you go. Continue working this round all the way around. When you finish the last stitch, join with the first stitch by a slip stitch. Pull tight. While crocheting, make sure the right side of the fabric always faces you. Like this, you've completed the first round. For rounds 2 to 14, follow the pattern in the chart. Always start each round with a chain, and finish by joining with a slip stitch to the first stitch of the round, and pull tight. Let's see. This is what it should look like after completing the 14th round. Make 1 chain to secure. Leave a tail about 15 centimeters for sewing. Then fasten off the yarn. Pull tight. For the other pant leg, make it in same way. Don't cut the yarn when you're done. Take a look. This is how both pant legs will look when finished. Now, we'll work on the 15th round. In this round, you'll join the 2 pant legs together. First, continue making 19 single crochets on the pant leg with the yarn still attached. That means you will work until 1 stitch left in this round. Now you reach that spot. There's just 1 stitch left here. Skip this stitch. Then, take out the other pant leg. Skip the first stitch. Begin working the single crochets from the second stitch, which is the one next to where you cut the yarn. Keep crocheting all the way around. Work until you reach the stitch on the right side of the yarn cut. Once the last stitch is completed, join with the first stitch by a slip stitch. Tighten it. Check your stitch count. Make sure it matches the chart. Like this. Round 15 is now complete. Both pant legs are now joined together. For rounds 16 to 22, follow the pattern in the chart to complete them. The decrease method on the sides is the same as for the body section. Crochet them all. After completing the last stitch of round 22, leave a 5 cm tail, then cut the yarn. Pull out the yarn tail. Then, insert your hook into the second stitch of this row, from back to front. Draw the yarn through. Then, insert your hook from back to front into the last stitch back loop. Pull out the yarn tail. Lastly, weave the yarn tail along the texture to the wrong side of the fabric. After doing several stitches, trim the yarn. Now, close the opening between the two pant legs. Thread the darning needle with the reserved yarn tail. Sew this middle hole neatly. Once done, tuck the yarn end inside. And that's it, the main body of the pants is complete. Now, let's proceed with making the edging for the pant legs. Take the right color yarn. Warp the yarn on your left hand. Turn the pant leg upside down, on the inner side of one leg. Insert the hook into the remaining 2 strands of the chain. Pull the yarn through. Make 1 beginning chain. Then, work a single crochet in the same stitch. Position the yarn tail above the hook. Continue, pick up the 2 remaining strands from the next chain. Crochet a single crochet into each placement. Work all the way around until you're at the end. After completing the round, join with a slip stitch to the first stitch. Tighten the yarn. The edging consists of 2 rounds in total. There is 1 more round to go. Crochet a single crochet into each stitch of this round. Once you finish the last stitch, cut the yarn. Choose the bind off method from the waistband to finish off, and weave in the ends. Like this, the edging for one pant leg is now complete. Repeat the same process for the other leg. Now, let's work on the decorations for the pants, including stripes, gold thread embellishment and bow. First, we'll create the stripes. Start by making a foundation chain. Crochet a chain. The length of the chain should match the length of the pant leg. When you reach the same length as the pant leg, cut the yarn. Apply glue to the right side of the chain. Attach it to the corresponding position on the pant leg. Each pant leg will have 5 of these chain stripes. Let's start by attaching the outermost stripe. Then, crochet both yarn tails to the inside of the pant leg. Hide the tails into the fabric. Repeat this process for the remaining 4 stripes. Attach 2 strips on each of the front and back. Distribute them evenly. Now, let's add some gold thread embellishment at the transition between the 2 colors on the pant leg. Crochet a round of slip stitches. Watch me demonstrate. Cut 2 60 cm lengths of gold thread. Combine them into one strand for crocheting. Insert the hook into any stitch at the color transition. Draw through the yarn. Make a round of slip stitches. Once done, weave the yarn end inside and hide it there. Tie the starting and ending tails together. Tuck both ends into the fabric. Like this, the gold thread embellishment is finished. Next, we'll make a bow. Take the green ribbon. Cut a piece about 15 centimeters long. Form a bow. gently adjust it. Now, trim the ribbon to the desired length. Cut at an angle. Then, using a candle or lighter, carefully burn the cut edges to prevent fraying. Apply glue to the back. Attach it to the outside edge of the pant legs border. Like this. That completes the decorations for one pant leg. Simply repeat the same steps for the other pant leg. Next, we'll make the shoes. There are 2 in total. The process is identical. Start with a chain stitch. Work in rounds, increasing outward. Once finished, add decorative ribbons and stars. A new stitch technique we will use is the TVHDC 2-in-1. Let me demonstrate for you. First, make the corresponding number of chains. Then, follow the chart to complete rounds 1 and 2. I've already prepared for this step. Now, let's work on round 3. Make 5 single crochets evenly. Then, in the next stitch, work a half double crochet. After that, you'll do a HDC 2-in-1. This means making 2 half double crochets in the same stitch. 1, 2. 1 HDC 2-in-1 is completed. Next, make 2 double crochets evenly. After that, work another HDC 2-in-1 in the next stitch. Then, make a half double crochet in the next stitch. Finally, finish with 6 single crochets evenly. Like this, round 3 is finished. For rounds 4 and 5, no new stitches are used. Just refer to the chart and complete these 2 rounds. Once the last stitch is done, follow the bind-off method used for the pants to weave in the yarn tail. Look! This is what the shoe looks like when it's finished. Now, let's make the decorations. First, create the ribbon on the shoe. Cut a piece of ribbon about 10 centimeters long. Then, cut a length of white yarn, separate one strand from it, thread it onto a sewing needle. Tie one end into a knot. Now, insert the needle into the edge of the ribbon. Exit about 1 millimeter apart. Insert again, about 1 millimeter apart. And come out. Use this technique to sew along this edge. When you're done, pull the yarn tail. Like this, the ribbon will close up. Sew few stitches at the starting position again to secure. Tie a knot and cut the yarn. Then, the ribbon on the shoe is finished. Next, fix the star to the right side of the ribbon. Once complete, apply glue on the back. Stick it onto the top of the shoe. Like this, one shoe is done. Repeat the same process for the other shoe. After that, put them on the doll's feet. Once they're on, you can add a bit of glue inside the shoes to secure them in place. If you want them easy to take on and off, you can skip gluing process. And that's it, the shoes part is complete. Now, let's move on to making the top. That includes the front piece, the back piece, the sides, the hem and neckline. Let's start with the front piece. Chain 11 for the foundation. Then work the first row. Start in second chain from the hook and make 2 single crochets. Begin from the second to last chain. 1, 2. After completing, chain 6. Then skip the next 6 chains. Work a single crochet in the 7th chain. Now 1 chain left. Make another single crochet. Like this, the first row is finished. Now, work the front and back pieces separately. We'll start with the front body here. Let's begin. Start by making 1 chain as the turning chain. Turn the work counterclockwise. The turning chain doesn't count as a stitch. Then, work a single crochet in the last single crochet of the previous row. After completing these 2 stitches, pick up 2 strands of the chain and work single crochets in each. Once done, there are 2 stitches remaining. Make 1 single crochet in each. Just like that, row 2 is now complete. For rows 3 to 14, work them in the same manner as row 2. Crochet 1 single crochet into each stitch. Continue to work on these rows until they're all finished. After completing the last stitch, make 1 chain to secure. Leave a 5 cm tail, then break the yarn. Now, look. This is what the front piece of the top will look like when completed. Next, we'll crochet the back piece. On the remaining side of the first row, work rows 2 to 14 just like you did for the front body. Keep going until you've completed them all. After finishing the last stitch, don't break the yarn. Take a look. This is how the front and back pieces of the top will look once completed. Now, let's move on to the sides. Start by making 2 chains as a turning chain. Count these 2 chains as 1/2 double crochet. Continue by working into the next adjacent space. That's where the single crochet's insertion point. Work 1/2 double crochet there. Moving down, always work into the next adjacent space. Follow the pattern indicated in the chart. Complete this row. Once you finish the last stitch, secure it with a chain. Leave a 5 cm tail, then break the yarn. Hide the yarn end into the fabric's wrong side along the texture. Take a look at the texture along the side. We'll consider the side with the clearer texture as the right side of the top. Like this, one side is completed. Use the same method to make the other side. First, take the yarn in the same color. Wrap the yarn on your left hand. Insert your hook into the first stitch on the other side. Pull the yarn through. Chain 2 as the turning chain. Then, begin crocheting in the next adjacent space. Keep the yarn ends above the hook. In this way, you have finished the sides. Now, let's move on to the hem. Start with the first row. Wrap the yarn on your left hand. Insert your hook into any piece of the top. Count 6 stitches from right to left, and work from there. Draw the yarn through. Chain 1 as the turning chain. Then, work 1 single crochet into the same stitch. While crocheting, keep the yarn end above the hook and hide it. Continue making 1 single crochet into each stitch. When you reach the side, work 2 single crochets in the turning chain. Then, proceed to the other side. In this half double crochet, work 2 single crochets. For this row, work 1 single crochet into each stitch. At the turning chain and half double crochet positions, work 2 single crochets. Finish crocheting this row. Like this, row 1 is complete. Remember to check your stitch count. Move on to row 2. Chain 1 as the turning chain. Turn the work counterclockwise. For row 2, work single crochets evenly into the stitches from row 1. Just finish crocheting this row. Look here, this is what row 2 will look like when completed. Now, let's make row 3. Start with 3 chains as the turning chain. Turn the work counterclockwise. These 3 chains count as 1 double crochet, they correspond to the last stitch of row 2. Then, work into the adjacent stitch. Follow the pattern from the chart. To finish this row, after completing the last stitch, work a slip stitch to secure. Leave a tail about 5 cm, then break the yarn. Follow the texture and weave in the ends to the wrong side of the fabric. Like this, row 3 is now complete. Move on to row 4. Warp the yarn on your left hand. At the hem, in row 3, insert your hook into the middle stitch behind. Draw the yarn through. The insertion point here is random, as long as it's on the back piece. Make 1 turning chain. Then work a single crochet in the same stitch. Next, pick up stitches and work single crochets across. After completing the last single crochet in this stitch, work 2 single crochets over the yarn of the double crochet. Then, work 1 single crochet in each of the next 2 adjacent spaces. Once done, work into the middle position. Make 1 slip stitch. Then make the symmetrical stitches on this side. Start by working 1 single crochet in each of the next 2 spaces. After completing, work 1 single crochet in each of the following 3 chains. Then, continue working single crochets into each stitch behind. Crochet the remaining part of this row. When you finish the last stitch, hide in the yarn ends using the technique used for the pants. That's it. The hem is now complete. Next, let's work on the neckline of the top. Warp the yarn on your left hand. At the center of the front piece of the top, insert the hook through the remaining one strand. This would be the fourth one from the right. Crochet a round of single crochets, 6 stitches at the front and back each, 2 stitches on each side. Don't forget to count your stitches when you're done. Move on to the second row. Start with 3 chains as the turning chain. Turn the fabric counterclockwise. Count these 3 chains as 1 double crochet, corresponding to the last stitch of the previous row. Then, work double crochets by picking up the back loops only of the previous round. Continue until you reach the last stitch. Now we are reaching that spot. Chain 3. Now, work into the last stitch back loop. Make 1 slip stitch. Then, at the insertion point of the last stitch in the first row, slip stitch to join. Proceed to the row 3. Start with 1 chain. Turn the fabric counterclockwise. Pick up the front loops of the first row. Work single crochets into each. To finish this row, after finishing, slip stitch join at the bottom. Secure with 1 chain. Leave a yarn tail about 5 then cut the yarn. Weave in the ends following the texture. Like this, the neckline is complete. Now, attach the female magnetic snap button to the shoulder of the top. Insert the prongs through. Then, fasten them onto a circular piece inside. Secure the 2 prongs tightly. Do the same for the other side. Next, cut a piece of yarn in the same color as the top. Sew the bottom edge of the side slightly. Once done, tie a knot on the wrong side. And weave in the ends. Repeat the same sewing method for the other side. Sew about 4 stitches for each side. Now, let's create the decorations, including arm decorations, chest decoration panel, belt, cuffs and rose flower. Start with the arm decorations. Cut 2 lengths of gold thread, about 70 centimeters each. Thread both threads onto a darning needle. Sew 8 lines along the arm. Insert the needle below round 13. Exit through the adjacent stitch. Leave about 15 centimeters of thread without pulling through. Then, insert the needle at the corresponding position in round 18. Exit through the adjacent stitch. That completes one line. Next, insert the needle into an adjacent stitch below round 13. Exit through the adjacent stitch. Repeat this for the remaining lines. Tighten the thread as you sew. There should be a total of 8 lines. Make sure they're evenly spaced. After sewing all 8 lines, transition the thread up to the shoulder area. Then wrap the gold thread around the arm twice. Once done, tie a knot inside the arm to weave in the end. Do the same with the other end, wrapping it around the arm twice. Then tie a knot and hide the end inside. This way, the arm decorations are complete. Follow the same steps for the other arm. Now, let's move on to the chest decoration panel. Refer to the chart. Start with a foundation chain. Then finish working 4 rows. The first row is worked by crocheting into 1 strand only of the foundation chain, while rows 2 to 4, you'll work into the front loops of the previous row. Here, I've already completed the first 4 rows. Now, let me demonstrate how to crochet an edge onto this piece. Begin by making 1 turning chain, then, at the hole of this corner position, which is the side of this stitch, make 3 single crochets. After that, work 1 single crochet into each hole. Follow this method, making a single crochet into each corresponding hole. At each of the 4 corners, make 3 single crochets. Once you finish the last stitch, finish off using the technique for the pants. Weave in the yarn ends neatly into the wrong side of the fabric. In this way, the chest decoration panel is finished. Next, we'll move on to the decorations. Cut a length of gold thread about 40 centimeters long. Thread it onto a darning needle. Fold it in half. Tie a knot at the end of the thread. Take your work vertically, about 7 millimeters from the top. At the insertion point for edging, bring the needle out from the back of the fabric. Don't pull the thread all the way through. Then, insert the needle into the symmetrical position on the other side. Pass the needle through the middle of the thread tail. tighten. Then, come out from beneath. At intervals of about 1 centimeter. Sew on the second gold thread. Skip about 1 centimeter and exit below. This is the third gold thread. Once done, tie off and weave in the ends on the wrong side. Then, attach buttons to both ends of each line. Apply glue to the back of the buttons. Attach them securely. Pay attention that the buttonholes align in a straight line. Let's securely adhere the remaining 4 buttons. Once that's done, apply glue to the back of the panel. Attach it to the center of the top. Then, the chest decoration panel is complete. Next, we'll crochet the belt. Start by making a foundation chain. The number of chains is flexible. It should be long enough to wrap around the waist of the top. Match it against the top as you work. Since the chain will tighten slightly after completing, making 2 extra chains is acceptable. Once the chain is finished, form a circle with it. Join with the first stitch by a slip stitch. Then, work single crochets in sequence. Until you reach the halfway point of the chain. Now you reach the middle point. Chain 1. And skip the next chain below. Keep working single crochets in the following chains. Complete this row. After the last stitch, follow the previous method to finish off, and weave in the ends. Hide the yarn tail into the fabric's texture on the wrong side. Then, attach the belt to the hem of the top. Note that the hole for the belt should be right in front. Apply glue to the back of the belt. Secure it firmly to the top. Now, take out the decorative button. Apply glue to the back of it. Insert it through the hole reserved on the belt. Adhere it properly. In this way, the belt is complete. Let's move on to the cuffs. The cuffs are crocheted with the remaining strands from the fourth round of the arms. Start by crocheting the first round. Take the yarn in the same color as the top. Warp the yarn on your left hand. Begin crocheting on the outside of the arm. Insert the hook into the remaining strand from the fourth round. Draw the yarn through. Make one beginning chain. Then follow the pattern in the chart. 3 single crochets evenly and 1 SC2 in 1. Repeat this pattern twice. Join with a slip stitch to the first stitch. The first round is now complete. Move on to the second round. Make 3 chains as the beginning chain. Work into the stitches from the previous round. Make a double crochet in each stitch across. Include a double crochet in the first stitch as well. Work all the way around. After the last stitch, secure with a chain. Leave a tail around 5 centimeters, then break the yarn. Weave in the ends on the wrong side of the fabric. Next, we'll add gold thread embellishment. Start by working a round of slip stitches on the single crochets of the first round. Take out the gold thread. Cut 2 40 centimeters lengths of it. Combine the 2 strands into one for crocheting. Warp the yarn on your left hand. Choose any single crochet as your starting point. Insert the hook. Pull the yarn through. Work a round of slip stitches along the insertion points of the single crochets. After completing the last stitch, leave a tail about 5 centimeters, then break the yarn. Pull the tails into the fabric. Tie the starting and ending tails together securely. Weave in 2 stitches on the wrong side, then cut the yarn. Then, work a round of edging. Merge the remaining gold thread together. Combine them into one strand for crocheting. Insert the hook into the opening at the cuff edge. Pull the yarn through. Next, insert the hook into the adjacent space. Work a single crochet. Place the yarn end above the hook. Once done, continue to the next position, and work another single crochet. Now, pick up 2 strands of the chain, and work a SC2 in 1. Continue with another single crochet. And a SC2 in 1. Continue alternating between making a single crochet and a SC2 in 1 in the next, until you get to the end of the round. After that, keep working single crochets on the side. Then, make a slip stitch into the first stitch. Secure with a chain. Weave in the yarn end on the wrong side. Like this, the cuff is complete. For the other cuff, just follow the same steps to complete it. Let's move on to the rose flower. First, crochet the flower base. Use 2 strands of gold thread. Start with a magic ring. In the first round, work 6 single crochets. In the second round, do 6 SC2 in 1. Hide in the starting yarn tail along the way as you working on the second round. Remember to begin each round with a chain, and end with a slip stitch. Work a chain to secure when you're done. Leave a tail of about 15 centimeters for sewing. So, finish crocheting the flower base by yourself. Once completed, attach the metal ring to the bottom of the flower base. Thread the needle through the reserved yarn tail. Transition the yarn tail to the middle position, from the right side of the fabric. Bring the needle out from the middle. Then, go through the metal ring. Insert the needle into an adjacent spot. Sew a few more stitches for ensure security. When finished, tie off and weave in the ends on the right side of the piece. Next, apply glue to the right side. Attach it to the bottom of the rose. Glue it securely. Then, the rose flower is complete. Up to this point, we've covered the entire process of making this doll. If you have any questions during the process, don't hesitate to reach us via our website, Susan's Family, supporting your handwork experience, sharing the joy of life. Thank you for watching this video. See you in the next episode.